I'm Holly Saunders, and I don't often listen to podcasts, but when I do, I listen to Golf Nation.
Hey, Risky Man, I don't think I've ever asked you why you like to tee it up.
Well, Jay, I don't just like to tee it up. I love to tee it up, and for a couple different reasons.
Well, what are the reasons, Risky?
Well, I love drinking beer with my buddies, scoring birdies, and you can't forget about those card girls.
Oh, we love the car girls.
Absolutely. What about yourself?
Man, I just like taking your money.
All right, well, I don't think we've ever played for money before, but that certainly sounds like a challenge to me.
Haha, first time for everything.
Yeah. Well, Golf Nation, we may not be the best players or stay in bounds all the time.
Dude, speak for yourself.
But we sure do know how to have a good time, I can tell you that much.
Yes, we do.
This is Golf Nation. Now here's your host, our fearless leader and the CEO of GolfCritique.com, Jeremy Lee.
Golf Nation, you are listening to episode 32 of the Golf Nation podcast, and we are here at the amazing Pine Needles Resort and Lodge with somebody whose life has truly been revolved around the game of golf. His love for the game took him to Tuscaloosa, where he began playing for the men's golf team at Alabama. There he met his future wife, which brought him here to the Sandhills to work at Pine Needles nearly 40 years ago. Then just a front desk clerk, he continued to persevere, work his way up to the top, and is one of the most respected men in the game, a true leader and a true gentleman. Please help me welcome a great player, a great advocate for the game, and the president of the Ross Resorts here at Pine Needles and Mid Pines, two amazing Donald Ross designs, Mr. Kelly Miller.
Geez, thank you very much for all that.
Yes.
Put you in charge of PR, but glad to have you, both of you guys here, and look forward to speaking with you.
Absolutely, and we have so much to discuss. You have such an amazing legacy, and we're so excited to kind of get into that and learn all about you and this amazing facility. But I'm looking at Risky, and Risky's got something sipping, and we're not sipping on anything.
I do.
What are we sipping on, Risky?
Well, here today we have the Duck Hook Creamy Ale from our friends down at Southern Pines Brewery.
Very
delicious,
nice.
Yeah, very refreshing.
And
Enjoy
the reason
myself.
you didn't get us any?
Tell you what, that looks fantastic. It's a great company, great story, and most importantly, a great beer. I know you'll enjoy. I enjoy it, and all of our guests do. But it's kind of like teasing us, putting it like Pavlov's dog. You know, you've got it right there over there, and we can't get to it.
All right, when we're done here, we'll go grab some more.
Cheers.
That's right. Cheers. Well, there's so many things happening here in the Sandhills. I know we've been dealing with a lot of stuff with COVID and everything, but I really want to just kind of start off with how you got here. You know, you have such a great story and your family's legacy here, and so kind of just run us through kind of when you first came to the Sandhills and kind of what that was like.
Sure. Well, how I got here the old-fashioned way. I married the boss's daughter. But, my first visit here, I came, it probably would have been in, I think, spring break of 1981. I had never been to North Carolina. It was my senior year. Actually, my senior year at University of Alabama, and came out here and really just fell in love with the place. As a kid growing up, I'd always, I'd see North Carolina, whether it was on TV, and I always thought that would be a really neat place to go. And lo and behold, there I ended up living here. I'm living the dream, really, as it relates to that. But just pulling into, the Pinehurst area here in Southern Pines and getting on that majestic Midland Road. I mean, hadn't seen 17-mile drive at that point, but I thought it was the most beautiful road I'd ever been on. And I still feel a lot like that today because it's such a majestic drive coming there. And really the first time I, met Mr. and Mrs. Bell, and funny story, when Mr. and Mrs. Bell always would play golf in the evenings, and a bunch of people would just gather, at 4 or 5 o'clock on the first tee. There might be 3, there might be 5, there might be 8, and everybody just played in a group, and I remember Peggy Ann was there, but she was going to play, the forward tees. And I remember going to the back tees, and of course Mrs. Bell went back there with Mr. Bell, and there was 4 or 5 other people. And I was like, gee, she's going, what is she doing going back here with that? And of course Mr. Bell said, Peg, your lady's up first. And she got up there and she hit that thing, and I was like, holy smokes. I had to really work at it to hit it by her. And, she was 62 years old at the time. And so I was so impressed with, just her ability, to hit it that far. And then, of course, at that age. So I could only imagine what she was like when she was, when she played competitively and on the LPGA Tour. But what a great lady. Obviously, Mr. Bell, a great man, and as a couple great leaders and great vision for what's here. And they created something really, really special.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, back in 1980 when you first came here, all of these courses have been here since the test of time. I mean, beginning of 1900s, 1925, 1926, 1906 for some of them. Do you see much different today than you did in 80?
Well, yeah, obviously there's been a lot more courses added since then. There was another 9 added at CCNC. Obviously there was Forest Creek. What is now Pinehurst number 9 was called Pinehurst National at the time. Mid-South, Talamore, all these courses popped up, and it all kind of sprang from, what I would call the historic Pinehurst, and I use Pinehurst as a broad term, being, kind of all the courses at Pinehurst, Mid Pines, Pine Needles, and then of course there was Southern Pines Golf Club at the time, and those were kind of the core ones, and then some others came along like out at Whispering Pines and stuff like that, and more were added, and Foxfire, so it just kind of sprang. But this area has continued to thrive, and we're so blessed with a great geographical location, where we are on the eastern seaboard in the middle of the state, a great drive-to market, which is going to be even more important now as it relates to the COVID virus. So, and then there's so much variety here. You can play, obviously, number 2 being the Master One,
right?
Hosting all the major championships and the great history, and then of course courses like ours, and then there's all different levels of golf courses for all different levels of skill of people.
Yeah, and it was amazing, just even with the U.S. kids coming in and getting one of those golf courses, you talk about all different levels and all different, demographics of golfers. That was really nice to see, because I think some people, when they think about Pinehurst, they just think about the elite, and it's we all know that very luxurious here in Pinehurst, and there's a great town, but that's great to see that we're attracting all these junior players as well.
Right. There's plenty of variety from a design point, and plenty of a variety from a pricing standpoint as well. So you can kind of pick and choose. There's a course for everybody, and really the compactness of the golf courses. All of those golf courses, 40-some golf courses within 15 square miles is, people talk about Myrtle Beach and 100 golf courses. I'm sure it's less now, but Myrtle Beach is probably 60 miles long, what they call Myrtle Beach, whereas this one, it's pretty compact, and a great feel and a great history of golf in the area.
Yeah, I always say it's like a beach town without the beach, without the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, we really don't. I mean, the natural beauty we have here is the natural beauty. We don't have an ocean, we don't have any mountains, but boy, is this area spectacular. And the fact that, even on a year-round basis, because it stays green, the pine trees don't lose their leaves. Some of the trees around here do, but it's green 12 months a year, which really makes it nice.
Yeah, it's really a beautiful area. And, with my love for Augusta and working at Augusta back in my college days, I'm such a huge fan of the big tall pines. And so when we came here, I was just like, oh, this is heaven for me. I don't think we'll ever leave.
Yeah, I don't want to leave either.
As you've made it for quite some time.
Just 40 years or so. I'm thinking about making it my home.
All right, not too bad. Well, I was reading up on your golf accomplishments, and I've always seen you as a businessman, and I don't know why you run a golf course. I assume that you're a good player, but you're such a revered businessman here in the area. But then I was looking at your golf accomplishments. Not only did you play for Alabama, which I think anybody who plays for Alabama is an unbelievable player.
I couldn't play for them now. They're really good.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
right. We hail from Kentucky, so Justin Thomas is an Alabama guy, and
Roll Tide.
yeah, and so they're big into Alabama football and Roll Tide, and exactly. And even actually, my business partner is an Alabama grad.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so he's up in Chicago, and so he'll love to know that you went to Alabama.
Good.
But I was looking at, so run me through your amateur career, because I'm looking at this. 3 U.S. amateurs?
I think I've played in actually, let me see, 1, 2, I think it's 5 U.S. amateurs.
5 U.S. amateurs. And how many mid-ams?
I think it's the same. I think it's 5 mid-ams as well.
Okay. And then you did a team, I guess it's at the inaugural USGA State Team Championship?
Yeah, well, USGA started a team championship. I played in the inaugural USGA Team Championship. I think it was in Lake Nona, if my memory serves me right. And then I've been fortunate enough to play in some of the British amateur and a number of British mid-amateurs. So, geez, golf has been so terrific and great for me. I feel really blessed. And then playing in some of the clubs I've associated with, and being able to go play in the World Club Team Championships all around the world, from China to Mexico to Korea, Thailand. It's been a phenomenal ride for me.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So my game, even though I'm a PGA professional, probably couldn't even sniff your game.
You could now, easily.
Which is pretty amazing, because I was reading, actually, when you played at the USGA, one of the USGA events, you were saying that you just didn't feel like your game was professional level. But I'm looking at all the things that you've accomplished as an amateur. Do you really think that your game wasn't there, or is it just wasn't your interest?
I don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg. I was not a great college player. Truthfully, I became a better player after college, and even playing in college. The guys that were great at that point were guys like Paul Azinger and Fred Couples and trying to think Mark Calcavecchia and all those guys, and they were so good, and I just didn't see where putting my name on the bag and a 1-iron in there was going to really help me. And basically I made the decision. I really wasn't going to work that hard at it. I kind of wanted to get on with business and get on with my life. I had a number of boys and buddies and friends that had done that for a while. And, it's very, very hard to get onto the tour and to the top level. And it's very glamorous for those guys at the top. But for the rest of the guys, for every one guy at the top, there's a couple thousand that just don't make it and hang around. And I was just ready to move on and get going in some sort of business. And like I said, I blessed that I made the right decision.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And I love the business of golf.
Yeah, me too.
It's just a phenomenal industry, and it's sad to kind of see how it's kind of gone away from the club business. Private clubs aren't seen as much. Do you see that much the same on the resort side of the business?
As far as
just not as many people come into the game.
Yeah, golf is there's always been, especially in the last few years, there's people saying golf's dying and et cetera. You know what, golf is, it's really not dying. I mean, this game's been played for hundreds of years, and it will continue to get played for hundreds of years more. This goes back to, I want to say 2008, and I was at a meeting that the USGA had with some, people that had played in their championships and guys that were involved in golf, and it was a great group. I don't know why I was there, but it was like Vinnie Giles and Buddy Marucci and Gordon Brewer, the president of Pine Valley at the time, and Jack Vardaman, and you name it. Mike Davis was there, and all the honchos from the USGA, and kind of going around, and everybody was, what's up with golf, what's wrong with golf, and the guy that really summed it up great for me was Gordon Brewer, wonderful man, great player. And he said, there's really nothing wrong with the game of golf at all. What was wrong was the business of golf, and that too many people got into golf to make money, and he says, now what you're seeing is it's all getting sorted out. And I thought that was about as good a description as, because all these clubs that got built up as real estate developments,
Right.
But the golf course so they could get increased, value for their real estate and et cetera. And so now, you kind of saw the shakeout that happened for a number of years. I mean, there's course closures was, pretty much routine for 150 to 200 a year. And it's probably what needed to happen. And eventually, right now you're finally starting to see some courses being built, but they're also closing as well.
Yeah. No, and I noticed that too. It was great to see new construction coming
Right.
up and new clubs coming in. And, it's even great to see the tour actually, COVID may be, a negative. I mean, it's obviously a negative in what we're dealing with in the epidemic, but if I'm being honest, I think it may have helped golf a little bit because golf is pretty much the only sport that's been able to be played for the last 3 months.
Yeah, it's the shining light as it relates to sports, and so it is great to see it back on TV. But it was terrific. Even right after this happened, we saw it. The numbers dropped considerably, and obviously there was nobody resort business. Nobody was traveling here, but our members were still able to play. Folks locally were able to play, and so. And then I think people just got out there and they felt more comfortable. The social distancing, it's still there. It was probably even more when this first happened. But in the end, there's until there's a vaccine, which is generally only 50%, successful
Right.
anyway, or there's some sort of cure for it. I mean, this stuff's going to be here for a while. So I think that in the end, that will make golf even stronger just because of the distancing that's out there. And it'll be interesting to see what changes in golf as it relates to what people will be willing to accept. For instance, is leaving the flagstick in acceptable? Are no rakes in the bunker acceptable? What are people okay with, as we move forward? I spoke with somebody from Golf Magazine and just suggested, I said, I'd be very curious to know, some sort of poll or survey, what are people okay with, as we move forward?
USGA must have had a intuition by leaving that flagstick in the last rules.
Yeah. Holy smokes, they were way ahead.
I know.
They knew something. Well, that's a great thing. Anything. It was all about speeding up play.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there.
Right.
We discussed that when it first happened on the podcast last year. And it was so funny because the people who wanted to leave it in was fine, but then it got into like a seesaw battle. It was like some wanted it in, some wanted it out, and it was like, oh my goodness. But I think that's everything would change. You got to kind of get used to it and see how it all evolves.
Yeah, I think people are used to it being in. Now, are there times where your ball hits the flag and doesn't go in? Yes, but I would say overall, I leave it in. More so now than ever. Well, obviously because I have to, but I would even moving forward, if we were allowed to take it off, I'd probably leave it in now.
Do you think you guys have seen a decrease in the pace of play?
The time of
Yeah,
it? Yes. A big function of that is, first of all, especially initially, single carts, were a big thing. So, you put 4 carts out there and 4 people where they could go directly to their ball instead of dropping a guy off, wait till he hits and going to his ball. So that did help with the pace of play. We've also... we got into the electric bikes or scooters, as we call them.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Those things are awesome.
We actually got them last fall and didn't really get them out that much, but then gradually started getting them out there. And then, of course, when this hit, we had 8 of them and called up the folks from Sun Mountain Fin. I said, geez, can we get more? And, of course, a lot of courses hadn't taken theirs yet or it said, hey, hold off. So they got us 8 more. So we've got 16 of them, and they're fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and that could kind of attract to a different demographic as well, right?
It's stunning what it had done on our social media accounts with Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and stuff like that. The people that were, they'd see it and they just called out, "Hey, can we get those scooters?" So a lot of people have come and experimented and truthfully have really enjoyed them.
Sure.
We tried the golf boards for a while. I always like to try some new things. But the golf boards were challenging. I mean, you had to know how to do it. It required some core structure and some, and then those boards getting into the sand and et cetera. It was challenging and a little bit dangerous. But with this, everybody's ridden a bike, and it's pretty simple, and the bikes are very reliable, very sturdy, and knock on wood, we've been lucky with no accidents so far, and it's great fun. If I had my druthers, I'd go out on them all the time.
Yeah, we might have to do something with you,
Risky. Guys out there, get risky
that looks
out there.
very fun. I've seen them around on social media too, and I want to try one.
I guess we'll need a beer holder for you, though. Right?
Oh yeah, cup holders for sure.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, talking about that, did we ever get into any situation there? You worried about that at all?
Well, hopefully people will be smart and safe. There is room on the back fender. They sell a cooler to put on the back of that, but I've chosen to not do that. I realize people go out there and drink, but I'm not going to necessarily encourage it. We want them to be safe and have fun. And really, everybody that's taken it, I haven't met anybody yet that hasn't really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's great. Well, we like to drink some beer when we play golf. It's a good time, and that's one of the best things about golf is the interaction with your buddies and just having a cold one, just getting away from, we basically live in a world of technology now.
Right.
And I think that's one of the best things about golf now.
It is. I mean, I was trying to remember who it was the other day, and somebody was asking about, where's your favorite place to play? And actually, I know who it was. It was my partner, Haresh Thurani. He's a great man. And he said, my favorite place to play is when I'm with my friends. Because that's really what the game's about. I played competitively, an amateur competitive career, but I don't play much competitively anymore. But I really enjoy being out with my buddies now.
Yeah.
And just having fun.
And I agree, and then that's for all skill levels. I mean, you're a great player, obviously, but even for the amateur golfer, I mean, that's some of the best things about the game is there's not another game that can really do that.
Right. I mean, no other game can do it. Like in tennis, you go out there with somebody that's, a little bit better than you, he beats you every time. But at least with golf and the handicapping, I mean, it makes it fun. I played the other day with a really neat gentleman, Larry Fitzgerald. Player, plays for the Cardinals. Relatively new member at Seminole. He actually came to the area and gave me a ring and said, "Let's go out there and play." And I mistakenly gave him some shots, and he very handily took care of me. I should have known better when he's won 2 AT&T Pro-Ams by like 5 shots each. I knew I probably jumped into something I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Nice gentleman.
Absolutely. And I love that because, most people, I don't even know if they look at Larry Fitzgerald and be like, oh, that dude's an avid golfer. Like, he loves the game. But he's here all the time. I see him here a lot. Yeah,
he comes with the group. I got to know him a little bit from down at Seminole. And then when he reached out, I said, you been here before? He said, oh, yeah. He said, we come here every year. And I was like, really? And so I was told about the course. And no, he said, I've played here plenty of times. So, it's kind of sneaky as it relates to that. And you talk about just a gifted athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, he says he hadn't had a lesson. Jimmy Dunn, the president of Seminole, said, well, that's not the case. Justin's father has actually given him a few pointers. But he's a very natural guy. And, he's 320 long. I mean, it's amazing how good and accurate. Handicap stays up there because he will hit a wayward shot here and there, but probably just not from playing a lot of golf. And once he gets done with that little football thing he does, and he starts playing golf every day, he's really going to be tough.
Yeah, I bet he is. That's awesome. Well, it's great to see the tour back up and running. And I know that they got, is it risky? Did you check the COVID rules of the PGA Tour this week?
Yeah, there's a few notable things, like Jim Nance is going to be the only commentator in the tower with a robotic camera. Obviously, all the players are getting screened daily for their temperatures and testing, and no
I assume
fans.
No crowds.
Yeah, obviously no crowds in the stands. But some other cool things that come from that are the mic'd up players. Like Ricky Fowler's mic'd up today, and there could be a future in that happening weekly now.
Yeah, I think that's cool, right?
Yeah,
to hear
100%.
the inside of that.
Yeah, 100% to hear the inside of that. And I think you'll see more of those matches like Rory played, and,
Yeah.
and they played at Seminole, and then of course Tiger and Phil at the Medalist down there. I think people like those. The one, we were actually excited to see, a lot of friends of mine excited to see Seminole on the television because a lot of people hadn't been there. But it was fun at the Medalist and having the other guys involved and alternate shots and all that. So I think you'll see a fair amount more of that type of stuff. Kind of goes back to, remember Cheryl's Wonderful World of Golf, when they used to have those matches,
Yeah, back in the
Snead
day.
and Demerit and Littler at Pine Valley. So there's lots of neat possibilities that don't necessarily require galleries.
Well, I think it's important for golf to bring personality. I
Yeah.
think it's been so monotone for so long
Right.
that, we all know Phil's kind of crazy and he's kind of out of the box. Just look at his what were they called? The
Phil's fireside chats.
Yes, fireside chats. They were hilarious. And it was just off the wall, things that you would have never expected. But it's great to see the personality of the player. And I think that's something that we've been missing.
Right. This whole newer generation and younger ones, you see them hanging out together, playing together. I see a lot of it from being down in Florida during the winter. But, the Ricky and DJ and Rory and all these guys that down in South Florida, and they just go out and play together, and have a great time. And I don't know if you noticed that or heard that Phil Mickelson is now moving to Jupiter, Florida.
He's tired of paying those taxes.
Well, he can save 13%, but I think it didn't bother him for a long time. But I think when he came down there and saw was, these guys are having a blast.
Yeah.
They go out there, gamble a little bit, have fun, pick at each other, and he just didn't have that out there in San Diego where it was.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. And any favorite players on tour?
Well, I'm an Alabama man, so I like Justin.
Yeah.
A great buddy of mine I've gotten to know through the years, Nick Price, wonderful man. So
Yeah.
And then it's pretty exciting. I like Rory as well. His dad is a member down there at Seminole, Jerry, and is one of the nicest guys in the world. So you can kind of see where Rory gets to be so nice from his parents, and it's just fun to watch it. But it's stunning to watch how far they hit it and how good they are. Because Rory's, he's obviously very well built, but he's not a big guy.
No, he was much smaller than I thought he was.
Yeah, and the power that guy generates out of that, small frame is. I can only imagine it kind of being a Hogan-like, the power that Hogan generated from a relatively small frame.
Yeah, and I think Justin's the same way. Ricky's the same way.
Yeah,
But I always
Justin goes after it.
Yeah.
Really, it's pretty much in balance, but it's amazing. The length, Justin, very long.
Yeah, I've always been amazed on how well. But we say it's not. It's not about arc. It's about twist.
Right.
It's about turn and how well you can generate and control your lower body against your upper body.
Yeah, it's stunning. The era that guys my age grew up in, you learned how to swing the golf club. And this new generation, they learned how to hit. It didn't matter how they swing.
Right.
They learn how to hit, and a lot of that is, number one, the teaching has changed, and number two, the technology has changed a lot. That allows
for sure.
them to go after it like they do. And the old Odilla graphite shafts that you had in the old days, if you went at it that hard, it'd slice 60 yards if you didn't hit it square, and a persimmon wood and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it truly is a game that is changing. It's going to be interesting to see what the USGA and the RNA do, as far as that goes. But I think the bigger the better. I think it's exciting. It's I remember they're talking about the NBA to raising it to 11 feet, the 11 feet, the basketball goal, and I was like,
The rims are going to 11 feet.
11 feet. That's what I heard.
Well, I've heard talk of it. I don't know what. If it's going to happen as it relates to that. But, if you go back in the history of golf, there's always been a complaint about the golf ball.
Oh.
You go from the gutta, to the featheries, the gutta, the whatever, and people were always complaining, oh, this next ball is going to ruin the game. This next ball is going to ruin the game. And, it's it would be nice. I can't imagine that there's that much more yardage out there that these guys, but you see these long drive guys out there hitting at 400 and some yards.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy smokes, what happens if that comes to, par fours or just drivable?
Yeah, I know. And those guys are swinging a little bit different shafts and longer shafts and stuff, but it is pretty amazing to see how long they can hit the ball. It's pretty crazy. Well, let's jump into pine needles and mid pines and talk a little bit about the history. Everybody knows Miss Peggy Kirk Bell. This is the home of Miss Peggy, and Bullet Bell and the amazing athletes that they were. I got to imagine that was a little intimidating coming into a family like that.
Yeah, well, I think normally it would be, but they were so gracious, so humble that they made not just me, but anybody they met, they made them feel at ease right away. Bullet was like to dig and pick with his humor. Peg was so kind, so gentle, and so caring. That you didn't really feel any awkwardness,
right,
as it relates to that. And then just what they were able to create, here. I mean, the course obviously was here. It was built mid pines in 21, pine needles in 27, and opened in 28. But the Bells, as it relates to the physical property here, they tried to buy the original, what is now St. Joseph's, a retirement center. They tried to buy that, but they were dealing with the bishop at the time, and all they were able to do was to buy the golf course, and they bought it with Julius Boris and the Cosgrove family. And so then they started creating, where we are currently, the lodge buildings, and even, Bullet, Mr. Bell, his nickname was Bullet, wanted to build a hotel, but back then, in the 50s, he couldn't get the financing for it. All the banks would allow him to do was to build these kind of chalet-type lodges because they thought they could convert them if he went under. They could convert them to homes.
Oh, so interesting.
So why does it look like it is? It's because that's all the financing they could get, was for these individual lodges to be built. And Bullet and Peg traveled somewhere, and he saw these chalet-looking places, and he had some old Polaroid pictures through the years that Bullet, I'm sure, took and said, okay, that's what I wanted to do. And what a great story. I mean, here's a guy that had basically a high school degree, played 1 year, I think, or so at Ohio State on the basketball team, but he kind of designed them all himself and for basically built them himself. He'd hire it out, but he served as a general contractor to that. And, starting in basically, they leased some facilities up there from the Catholic Church, and they basically didn't renew their lease, so they had to go build something. So that's what started it all, and started with 4 lodges right up there on the hill, 5 rooms apiece, and a small clubhouse here. And then as they grew and grew and grew a little bit, they'd add one here, they'd add another one here. So it stemmed from basically 1960 until I think the last lodge Mr. Bell built was in 1972, and then we built another lodge, the Ross Lodge, at the end, right around 1999, 2000 there. So it's been a steady stream of building.
Yeah, no, and most people, obviously, the Pinehurst area, the resort is here. And we talk about hollow ground, but you've had so many great players. I mean, obviously, she's huge in the women's game.
Right.
And what you guys did from the women's game was pretty phenomenal. You guys have had multiple U.S. Open women's opens here.
Right. We've had 3, and they all came pretty quickly. We had 1996, and we've had great champions, which is a tribute to the golf course and what Donald Ross created. We had Annika Sorenstam won in 96, and then she was number 1 in the world. And then Kari Webb, who was number 1 in the world, won in 2001. And then Christy Kerr, who was really right at the top and ended up defeating Lorena Ochoa, who was number 1 at the time. And so it's been a great run, and we'll have it again in 2022. We had the Women's Senior Open, the second one, in 2019. So we've had multiple USG events. They've been great. Hopefully we've been great partners for them. But, kudos to this area and this area's commitment to golf and championship golf for coming out to support them. And then and also to the state of North Carolina, because these things, you think of all these places where they go, whether they go into New York or Chicago or LA or whatever, they're much bigger communities. But for a small county and area like ours to be as successful as we've been requires people throughout the state coming and helping and making them successful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's amazing to see what Miss Bell has done as far as the Golfari as well, and what she created there. The one thing that I do love about that is, she says the perfect balance between learning golf, playing golf, and relaxing in the company of friends.
Yeah, that kind of sums her up.
Yeah.
She was a very classy lady, not fancy, but just classy, just the way that she held herself, the way she spoke, the way she taught, but she was also a great business person. There wasn't a major decision that I made here or was involved with that she wasn't obviously a huge part of, and in the end was a big supporter of, in terms of whether that was, we started out with buying some land out there, and then when the opportunity came to buy Mid-Pines, and I went to Peg and said, what do you think, Peg? And she said, oh, I always love Mid-Pines, you got to buy that place.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten, we've got a really two really neat golf courses here, and we've got some opportunities with some land adjacent to us, obviously the championships that we've got coming, and then hopefully this neat opportunity with Southern Pines Golf Club down the road.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I think a lot of people, if they asked, a lot of people would say Mid-Pines is one of the best, if not the best, Donna Ross track here.
Yeah. I remember when Ben Crenshaw and Bill Coor were redoing Pinehurst number 2. They'd go over to Mid-Pines in the evening, and there'd be Ben Crenshaw just out there walking the golf course, not playing, whatever, because he really loved the set of greens. Well, he loved everything about Mid-Pines. Just the way the strategy, there's tremendous strategy over there, tremendous greens complexes that we really basically have left as is. Even when we converted to Bermuda, we didn't core them out and do anything to them, because I would argue with a friend of mine, Tom Fazio, and he would, say, well, we can put that thing back exactly. And I just have a hard time believing you could put those back. And what a great set of greens. So if it's good enough for Ben Crenshaw to say they're spectacular, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, we couldn't be happier to host our first annual $25,000 giveaway here at Pine Needles and Mid-Pines coming this fall.
Exciting, yes.
Yes, and golfcritique.com, I think, kind of goes along the same same thought process as Miss Bell did, because it's all about learning. We have our instruction side, we have finding golf courses we find, and then those people like to travel, and then we have an entertainment side of the business. And it's just it's really encouraging that she thought about that back, in her day when golf was popular.
Right.
You didn't really have to get people to come to the game. They were just coming in droves.
Just a story about, real quickly, I don't know how much time you have, but when Mrs. Bell, because she really wasn't a teacher, she was a player, and there was somebody, a gal came into the pro shop, and Mr. and Mrs. Bell were standing there, but it was probably running the cash register, and this lady came in for a lesson. And she said, can I get a lesson? And so Bullitt looked at Peg, and he said, well, Peg, why don't you go teach her? And she said, well, Bullitt, I don't know that much about teaching. And he says, well, you know more than her. Go tell her something. And that's how she tells the story that she probably had that lady out there for 3 hours. She says that poor lady probably quit the game. But she, in the end, became obviously a phenomenal instructor. And like I said, I say she was a great teacher. She was a great golf teacher, but she also taught a lot of life's lessons. So really, really a cool lady. So, but the whole Golfari thing started again. It was they lost a convention here that they were going to have, and Mr. Bell was kind of down in the dumps, and Peg just said, you know what? I had a gal, what's her name, up in Greensboro, and anyway, she said, look, we'll go out and we'll get a bunch of gals to come here, and we'll run a golf school. And that's, back in those days, you mimeographed off of a thing, and they just developed a whole bunch of flyers and went out, and that's how the golf always started, just going out. Peg would go to pro shops and say, here, we're going to have ladies here. And back then, that was really unheard of, to have women teaching women, and that's really where the success of it came, I believe, from Sam, because she was such a pioneer in a lot of things, but certainly in teaching.
Yeah, fantastic. So, talking about the giveaway, and, I think do we have somebody online?
Yeah, we have our first caller. Caller, are you there?
Caller. Hi, Jeremy and Kelly. It's Holly Saunders. How you doing?
Oh,
Holly Saunders, how about that? How you doing there, Holly?
Hi. I'm doing great. Thank you for allowing us to have this big giveaway, and we think it's going to be really special. So I just want to get on and thank you, and looking forward to seeing you very soon.
You bet. We got to get you back here. I follow you and see where you're traveling, so travel on over here sometime.
I will. I'm really looking forward to it. And Jeremy, I hope Jeremy's treating you okay.
They're doing all right. I'm jealous of this beer this guy's got over here. I'm salivating right now.
Oh, man. Well, Holly, our first brand ambassador for golfcritique.com. She has just been a joy to work with, and we're so excited to bring her along with 3 other ambassadors. And I think we can actually announce our second ambassador, Mr. Brian Urlacher,
Really?
Hall of Famer.
How about that? Bears. Go Bears. I'm a big Bears fan.
Go
Yeah.
Bears. Yes.
Bears.
Yeah. Old Ditka back then.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for calling
You're doing
in.
a good job, Jeremy. I don't like to compliment you, but you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You are.
Well,
Thanks.
thank you.
Good to hear from you, and stay safe and healthy.
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, Holly.
Thanks again, guys.
All right.
Well, yeah, Holly's just been a great ambassador for us. And as you know, she's been around the game for a long time. And so now we're adding in Brian Urlacher as our second ambassador. And so we get to bring all these people here Labor Day weekend to enjoy. So I don't even know how up to date. So we're selecting 8 people out of a national contest across the country. 8 people are going to bring a guest with them. And they're going to get to play golf with Holly and Brian. And then we have 2 other ambassadors that we're going to be doing for over 2 days. We're going to stay here at Mid Pines and Pine Needles and play Mid Pines, play Pine Needles, and just have a great time. And then one of those 8 will win the $25,000.
Good for them. What a great thing. And thanks. We look forward to helping and supporting and having some fun. In the end, that's what it's about. The great game of golf is putting you with your friends.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I just love this place. This has been great to me and my family, and you guys are such gracious people, and I think that your resort continues to be to expand the test of time, and that's what I think I love most about your resort is when you come here, you feel like you're in a different era.
Yeah.
Like it's just a great feel about it. Instead of just modernized, it's really the true, authentic Sandhills.
Well, we used to say this was Mrs. Bell's home, and it had just happened to have 63 rooms attached to it. But that's the way she wanted people to feel like it was her home, both her and Mr. Bell, and that's what we've tried to carry that tradition through. Just go by, sit in the bar in the fall, put the fireplace on, and your feet up on a cocktail table, and just relax and be with your family and friends. So, and we've got a great staff. A lot of them that have been here a long time, so we're blessed to have them. And of course, recently we got a new partner with us, a restaurant who is terrific. We've got a lot of cool things on the agenda in terms of moving forward. So we'll have to keep you updated and posted on everything that we're doing.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Well, Risky, another episode in the books, my friend.
Really, we got to end it now?
I know, right? We had Holly on, Mr. Miller giving us some great insight.
Yeah, it's been so fun.
It has been great. Thanks to you guys for coming here and putting up with me and hearing some of the old war stories. But it's been great fun, and we're excited about this fall, and you just let us know what we could do to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Miller, for your time today. And remember, everybody, Mid Pines and Pine Needles are open for play. We're out of COVID. Everybody are you taking in resort guests now?
Yes, we are taking in guests.
Okay, so we got resort guests available. So if you want to book your next trip here to Pine Needles, definitely check out Pine Needles Inn and Lodge. Check out Pine Needles Lodge. And also check out Mid Pines Inn and Golf Club. You can reach them at pineneedleslodge.com to book your next trip. You can also find them at golfcritique.com and be able to find them and click on their packages and see what they have to offer, which is great. So, Risky, let them know how they can get in touch with us.
Yeah, make sure you check out the show on YouTube at Golf Nation Podcast. Also, hit us up on Instagram and LinkedIn at Golf Nation Podcast, and also on Facebook and Twitter at Golf Nation Pod. If you have a comment or suggestion for Jeremy and I or the show, just send us a DM or an email at info@golfcritique.com. And we'll be sure to respond.
Absolutely. And don't forget, Monday starts the big $25,000 giveaway with golfcritique.com. Make sure you go and sign up. Make sure you have to review. So we make everybody review. We want people talking about golf.
Amen. Yeah, there's so much good going on in golf. A lot of people should be talking about it.
Absolutely. And so many people are playing. I've talked to so many people. They're like, we're busy. We're crazy busy right now.
Yeah, it is busy.
Of course, it doesn't hurt that their golf pros are now washing carts because they can't bring the staff.
That's true. Yeah. It's challenging with the staff right about now, just because it's you want them to be safe, but also getting them back to work.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So just sign up at golfcritique.com, choose a plan, review your last round, and you're in. Starting Monday. So next week we'll be back with another great episode. But until then, learn as much as you can. Live your life to the fullest and play golf forever. I'm Jeremy Lee. This is the Golf Nation Podcast. We'll see you on the tee.
Let's go get caught up with Risky here.
Yes, beer time.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was fantastic.